means we're officially in. You guys' phones need to be zipped up. Your distracting tabs, please, are closed, please. You'll have some time to do things that aren't listening to me today, I promise. But I want to first talk about the adjustments I've made to 5.2. So if you go to our weekly thread, this link is now updated. Well, we also have an agenda for the day. But this link from Thursday, the 5.2 intro, now takes you to the updated version, which I've added some links, some extra kind of reading resources that you can look at for the rest of this assignment. But now you can see that I've updated the rubric as well to have the correct font names. And instead of doing a second exercise as an entire web page, we're going to do this as a div section. So it's just a piece of our 5.2 HTML page that we made the other day. And instead of making a whole new one, we'll just do these specific styling things inside of a div box. And I'll show you how to get started on that. But there are different links that I want you to look at to help you finish it. So with 5.2, let me open up your classes and go back. So this is 6 periods, but if I go file and then open folder right here, I can find my way to first period, unit 5, select folder, and here we are on 5.2. This is where we left off, right? Just with the first exercise talking about paragraphs and headings, changed up the font a little bit by adjusting the font family property for the entirety of our body by setting it to Arial first, then Helvetica, and stuff like that. So I'm actually going to go live so I can keep continuously updating this. And go back to 5.2, go live. I'm just going to put my output on this screen over here so I can see what we're working with. Okay, so exercise 2 is going to be a combination of both pseudo classes and fonts. But before we do anything, we need to structure. We need to give our HTML some bones to attach some CSS to. So we need to create a div section in 5.2 that's going to have these pieces before we do any styling. So what I'm going to do, because actually I'm going to take this horizontal line off. Okay, here's the paragraph, the heading, and the divs blocks with a class of code as according to 5.2 right here. We haven't finished out all of the CSS on that yet, but there's resources available in the canvas that I can point you to during our work time. But we need to make a separation between our first exercise and our second exercise. And I'm gonna do that with just a horizontal line, a void tag, HR, hit enter, and then I'm gonna nest that back one level onto my body like this. So using that same method of typing out a tag and then a period and a class name, when you hit enter, it'll automatically fill all that detail out for you. Since we're creating a div for exercise 2 that's got some text in it, I want to first make a little label with an H1 back on the same level as exercise 1. This is under here, exercise 2. And then within exercise 2, I'm going to have a div period ex2. And when I click this wrench icon, or when I hit enter, it's going to automatically give me a div start and end tag with a class of ex2. And this is going to be that div section that we're going to be doing the pseudo classes and, sorry, that's my output. The pseudo classes as well as the first letter stuff and the text changing and all that fun jazz. But we need we need 2 paragraphs because the regular text needs to be changed to the font Verdana. The first letter of each paragraph needs to be changed to the font italicized Georgia, and we also need a link to the SHS website. So I'm going to go in my div class of ex2, p enter, regular paragraph. P enter here and set this to italicized Georgia paragraph. And then I'm going to go to the SHS webpage and grab a quick link. So A, enter, so I have that quote ready to go. We're going to go to SHS, see where it takes me. Sammamish High School. We won. Stop. Hi. Good morning. Oh, wow. Thank you. No, you're totally fine. We're in the Zoom room. Just set it on the chair for now, and we can figure it out in a second. Thank you. Okay, cool. So here we are at ISD 411, right? Copy that, paste that in our quotes. Make sure that you have some content in between your tags. SHS web page. We're just doing the basic HTML style, or not styling, excuse me, the HTML structure, so that when we look at our output, because remember, it's still going to be setting the entire body to Arial. We have our whole exercise here, and nothing specific, nothing crazy is happening. I clicked with my mouse wheel to open Skyline High School in a new tab. You can also, this is optional, but you can go into your anchor after the quotes here and add a target of blank. And then when you have target blank, it will open up in a new tab like this. So it's just a nice, useful little additional detail you can add to your page. Okay, so now that we have our structure for exercise 2, just 2 regular paragraph tags and a regular old anchor tag, we can start thinking about some of the specific things that exercise 2 is asking of us.
Wait, is this like the first letter of each paragraph?
We'll talk about that here in a second. We're going to go step by step. So the first one is set the regular text to Verdana. So the only thing inside of this div exercise 2 class is paragraphs. We could do 2 things. We could either assign a rule to paragraphs as a whole, but that's also going to affect our text up here. Or since CSS waterfalls, we can set a rule for the entire div class, and we can have it cascade over whatever's contained inside. Yes, Grace.
For the lorem headline, what is that? Did I see like what's that?
Oh, that's exercise 1. That's just to show that there's a headline right here.
Oh, okay.
No worries. Okay, so I'm going to go into my CSS. The only rule I have currently for that is setting the font family to Arial, but we want to focus specifically on this div.exercise 2 and then have a curly bracket in there. It's the same property if we're setting the font for a specific element or a specific container, specific section. We're going to go font-family and then quotes, and we want this to be set to Verdana. So Verdana, VS Code is smart enough that it can make a guess that you want this to be Verdana. You can see the spacing is just a teensy bit different. But we want to be extra sure that we have the backup font group in the CSS value, just in case that Verdana can't load for whatever reason. So I'm going to Google Verdana font, and it's going to tell me right here, the Verdana family resembles Humanist sans serifs. That's what I'm looking for right there. One of the 2 main groups or one of the 3 smaller groups. So I'm going to go back to my CSS, put a quote after my font name, and then I'm going to add a little sans serif like this. Take out this extra period. So your div.ex2, to set everything in that section to be the font Verdana, you got to name the font Verdana first in quotes. And then after a comma, you got to add what type of font group Verdana is in. Verdana is a sans serif type font. So if we go back to our output, which is not here, of course, it should be here. Refresh that. Arial and Verdana, because they're both sans serif, is a pretty hard, it's pretty hard to make the distinction, but you can tell that this text just looks a teensy bit different than this one does up here. So we've set our font family property to be a specific font and a specific backup font group. And those are the 2 big steps that you need to do when you're changing the property of font family. So the first letter of each paragraph, we're going to be setting to italicized Georgia. These 2, Georgia is new because that's the font family thing we've just learned, but you've seen italicizing text before. This is font style, font style, excuse me. But I've also linked this just in case you needed a reminder. Let's focus on what we know first, that italicized Georgia, or that italicized at least. Let's go into the CSS. And if I set paragraphs, curly bracket, enter to font-style right here. If I set it to italic, that is how I know to change the font style of a text-based element to become italic or italicized, but it's going to affect my entire page. I don't want it to be this specific. The CSS, or 5.2, using pseudo classes, you can set the first letter. There's 2 colons on this one because this is what's called a pseudo element. It's even more specific than a pseudo class. But if you look right here in the example, if you set your paragraph selector first, and then you add that : first letter pseudo element, pseudo class right after it, you can set whatever CSS you want to apply. Whatever CSS you want to apply to the first letter of every paragraph. you can have it be all contained within our CSS here. So that is the selector that was new that we're going to be trying out here. And we want the CSS, the properties and values inside of that first letters selector to be font style and font family. So this is not specific enough. If we add the 2 colons and then first, you can see there's a bunch of different first two colon options. First letter is the one that we're looking for here. And now, every first letter of every paragraph, it is okay if this affects your entire web page, if it extends past exercise 2. It's gonna interpret this as when I find a paragraph tag, I'm gonna do this CSS, but my condition is only do the CSS on the first letter. So when my condition is met, then my CSS inside applies. So we have font style italic, and then we have font dash family. First, we need the name of the font, which is Georgia. And if you're not sure what font group Georgia is in, it's tempting to just Google, like we did Verdana, Georgia. But Georgia, there's a lot more Georgias than just the font, right? So you got to add the little font qualifier at the end here. And it will tell us that Georgia right here, the Wikipedia, is a serif typeface. So that's the extra part that we need to add in the back right here, serif. So now when I look at my HTML is running like a recipe. It's going top to bottom, just running through everything that it knows how to do. But with this CSS, it's going to look for paragraphs first. And then when it finds a paragraph, it's going to go, okay, sure. What CSS do you want me to apply? But because we've added this extra qualifier, this extra condition that needs to be met, only the first letters of each paragraph element are going to have the font family of Georgia serif and the font style of italic, which is going to create a look like this. So if I refresh here, you see this has gone back to normal, straight up and down text, but the first letter of each of our paragraphs, except the div because that's not a paragraph, has become a different font and a different font style. So that's how you're going to do that specific pseudo element. It's a little bit like a pseudo class, but even more specific. I've linked some more reading about stuff like that. Pseudo classes only use 1 colon like this, but pseudo elements use 2. This is just something that you'll have to Google to make sure, because there's no like real way to keep it memorized, to be honest. I just still have to Google them all the time. So, but I've linked it here if you want to read some more about how it actually works. All right, so in the back, quiet down, please. The last thing we need is we need to add some pseudo classing for hover over our anchor links. That gets bigger and turns red. So bigger is a relative term. It's dependent on what your definition of bigger is. I'm just going to set it to bold and a little bit larger font size, but we know for sure turns red. Okay, so we have our anchor here inside of our div class of ex2. Let me get rid of this. Oh, we don't have any links on here. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to go into my anchor tag. But if I just try to write the font dash size to be extra large and the color to red.
Wait, you can do that? Excess large?
Yeah, you can type it out by name.
Oh, wow.
If you want to set it to color, yeah, you can do percentages as well. But if you set the font size to extra large and the color of red, on our output, it's just going to affect it by default. It's not going to do anything when I hover over it. I can use a pseudo class by going into the selector and typing colon hover. That adds a condition to my anchor that when I'm hovering over the anchor, then this CSS applies. So if we go back to my output, it turns back into a normal link like this. But when I hover over it, when my condition is met, the specific CSS that happens inside of the pseudo class container is going to be applied like this. So that is exercise 2. There's still, I can help you finish up both 5.1 and 5.2 today. Here's what my CSS looks like if you want to take a screenshot or a picture of some kind, but I'm also going to be able to help you. So go quick about that. All right. And then I'm going to move to my 5.2 HTML now. Slowly but surely. There we go. This is what my 5.2 HTML looks like. I'll give you a chance to kind of check it before I help you guys one-on-one. It's got exercise 1 and exercise 2 divided by that horizontal line so that we can just see everything that's that we're working with here.
Wait, is Verdana like a serif or some serif?
Verdana's a sans serif font. All right, so I'm gonna help you guys finish these up today. So we still have a lot of class period time. I don't want to Zoom room the entire time. The last thing I want to show y'all is how to submit these 2 assignments. I've been getting lots of questions in all of the classes about how do we actually submit these with our new method. So since everything is contained inside of this, if I pop out my Explorer here, this Unit 5 root, if you've properly connected everything, we've got our index page linked up so that I can see it here. What we'll do is go to our file explorer and just zip and submit this one like normal. So if I minimize this guy, this guy, this guy, I got a bunch of tabs open. There we go. We're gonna go to first period web design. Okay, here we are in first period web design. I'm gonna check the box next to Unit 5 like this. And then right click once you have it checked, or middle finger click, go down to send to, and then click on compressed zipped folder. It's gonna automatically add one down towards the end there. I scrolled, so it gave mine a name like this, but it's in there. If you want, this is optional. You can go to view and then check, or there's this box that says group by. You can group them by type, and that's going to sort out your file folders versus your HTML, your Word docs, and all of your compressed or your zipped archives, so you can more easily see them. This is how I typically have my personal computer set up, just so I can see which type is which. But anyways, that's view and then group by type. Okay, sorry, I got sidetracked. On our modules for Unit 5, there's a spot to submit your Unit 5 roots here. The way that I'm going to do this, I've already submitted this apparently. Interesting. The way that I'm going to do this is going to be out of 0 points. So this won't tank your grade. It's not like extra credit or anything. But each of the assignments have their own set of points. And that's where I'm going to be grading and actually giving you your feedback for those specific pages. So you only have to submit one file, technically, one zip folder for the entire root. We're just going to go and upload that real quick.
Oh, you can just zip the whole root and then
You zip the whole root, send me the whole root, and then I grade it assignment by assignment. So if I go into projects, oops, that's not what I want. I want semester 1, first period web design, find Unit 5 zip right down here. Go ahead and open that, submit it. And I've just submitted 5.1 and 5.2. Now, depending on the size of the unit itself, whether that's like something like Unit 4, where we had 7 different assignments or 6 assignments in a project, your root folder will have those 6 assignments, and we'll keep project folders separate. We'll just keep assignments in their own all-in-one root for practices and stuff like that. But yes, Skylar. Yes, and I will help you at your desk as well. But here's my 5.2 CSS. What's up? Yes, this is a shorter unit. And then next week we'll do Unit 6, which is also going to be a shorter unit before we get into Java. There's my CSS. All right, so I'm going to wrap up this Zoom room, and then I will help you all one-on-one with your specific questions. Make sure that you zip and submit your Unit 5 roots by today. It is due tonight at midnight, but it has a deadline of January 5th. Just these Unit 5 roots are going to match up with their assignments on Canvas. So you'll notice that they all have the same due date and deadline, so that you have everything kind of tracks. Okay, so let me process this video real quick, and then I'll help you guys with the remainder of the class period, or get this video processing, and then yeah, that will be our Friday.